there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in that area. Our approach has to be systematic, and that is why ANADAC Group and R&D and RDA Associates actually focus on diversity of groups and diversity of sectors that need to be represented in our conversation around vaccine hesitancy. And thus the different groups that we invited for webinar 1, webinar 2, and webinar 3. So we have to be intentional about creating a systemic effort to engage different sectors, and not really to also lose sight about the importance role that the community leaders actually have, whether they're faith leaders or local healers or neighborhood associations, whoever they may be, engaging everyone. And there are those that do not have access to media. So to what extent can we really bring information to rural communities or to those that do not have access to the media? The importance of active listening, because again, people are hesitant because they don't have enough information. We do not need to pass judgment, but really inquire where their hesitancy comes from. Is it about fear? Is it about wrong information? Is it about bad experiences that someone may have had regarding the vaccine? So asking the right question is really important. The moment we become judgmental in our approach, what do we create? We create defensiveness in people, and we will not be able to make change happen. We also need to think about motivational interviewing skills and build our skills on that. That is really basic, and in this kind of initiative to really hone in about what would motivate people, where their beliefs are, and how can we move the needle so that they would go from not at all being interested in the vaccine to moving up the needle slowly and progressively to where they accept the vaccine. There was standard of practice that we should actually all approach in the way that we address COVID and also hesitancy, and that we really need to embrace the fact that we are so interrelated. This is a global issue. And if we do not work together, we are not really, these variants are going to continue to pop up and continue to make, huge challenge for us. So yes, we need to really stop hoarding vaccine, share vaccine with Africa, and prepare Africans to take on the jab. Just having access is not enough to really get the population vaccinated, and that's why we're having this conversation. South Africa, for example, has enough vaccine for its entire population. So why do we only have about 25% of their population vaccinated? So herein lies the reason why ANADAC Group and R&D and RDA Associates are focusing on the hesitancy piece. When we look at the entire population of Africa, we only have 11% of the population that have had a single vaccine. And when you look at who has actually completed the full dose of vaccine, that's about 7.5% of the entire continent. So there's a lot of work. Yes, we do need campaigns, as stated here, and we have to work on that front. And we need everyone's effort that are here in this conversation. And sharing your personal stories, because many of you said that you yourself were hesitant and then you changed. So that information in terms of what led you to change is very important. And communicating that storyline for people that you work with is really essential. It is a way that you build a relationship and trust with the community, with the people that you're working with and trying to make change happen. So thank you, and I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Igby.
Okay. Thanks very much, Rebecca, and thank you so much to everybody who's joined us, and some of you have joined for the 3 conversations. Just one question, Jamie, please put on the poll. So if you didn't fill the poll before, or please fill the poll. Panelists, please do not fill the poll. So all non-panelists, please fill the poll. I think this is a good place to end the conversation, because I think as we think about COVID vaccines, There are the systemic issues, which, in my view, many governments in Africa need to move from being the vaccinator, the chief vaccinator, to being the chief enabler of vaccination. And that means using all the resources in country to get people vaccinated, not just the Ministry of Health or their sort of responsibilities. And so one of the things we've heard, so you have systemic issues like making sure there's supply, either there's a lot of conversations around manufacturing on the continent or making sure there's supply to the continent, which we understand is being increasingly addressed. And we've heard about countries sort of wasting vaccines versus the issues. And the second systemic issue is actually making access easy. I've heard of people spending 1 or 2 days trying to get a vaccine. If you even are a little hesitant, or even if you do a busy source, spending 1 day in a line to get a vaccine is obviously a major issue. So I think systemic issues. But then there's the individual issue, which is where this issue of vaccine hesitancy comes. Because even if the issue of supply and access is solved, if people do not go to get the vaccines or do not want to get the vaccines or do not know about the vaccines, I think this is a major issue. And as Rabka said, this was the reason behind this conversation. There has been so many wonderful ideas. I mean, Jolene's raffle in South Africa. In the US, many states were running lotteries and, competitions to get people vaccinated. I mean, yours was one of the first we saw in Africa, where people were actually doing raffles and to encourage people, The second, the issue about campaigns. I mean, we've been speaking to people who are not even hesitant, who have not really heard about the vaccines or where they can get it. And the issue, I think, with medical people like myself, we often talk to ourselves. And I also noted, Jolene not listening to 2 hours press release. And we have been very, Repka and the ANADAC team and our day have been very careful. We really wanted to avoid the traditional speakers on COVID. So if you notice, we've had no government people. We have focused on healthcare workers, community leaders, and now the journalists and media, because we think it's really important that the whole countries and everybody's involved. And as Repka says, every individual has a role. And if you haven't taken your vaccine yet, maybe this is making you think about it and maybe find out more information. And if you've had taken your vaccine, please tell somebody else. And for folks, as Ms. Boyo said, on large platforms, the problem is that misstatements have very large footprints. Because the singer, the issue of male fertility issues that was started by or raised by the singer, I'm not sure many people heard that Trinidad and Tobago did an investigation and they found it was false. That's not news. The news was the first bit. So I think it's so important, to think about that. So we really are very grateful to all of you joining. And somebody just said about 1 million COVID vaccines expiring in Nigeria. We need to get people wanting to get jabbed, lining up, asking for vaccines, and having easy access to vaccines. In many countries with high vaccine rates, it is so easy to get a vaccine. It's actually more difficult not to get a vaccine. I don't think anywhere in Africa is there yet. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And if you have any other suggestions, we're very willing to partner with people on this. As Raptor said, the ANADAC team and RDA feel very passionate about this issue, because this issue of at the individual choice level, we don't think is being addressed sufficiently. Well, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Helen, wonderful moderation. Thank you, Michael, for the issue with the hospitality. I was at a hotel in Nigeria, a second Benin, small town. The guy tells me, the porter tells me, oh, I'm vaccinated. I said, how many are you? 85%. He tells me, I'm at the front line. I have to be vaccinated. So obviously the hospitality people are getting the message. And then Jolene, thank you so much for your examples and showing what one person with a Facebook can do. Facebook should make you a star. They should give you some sort of award on this. Facebook, if you're here, please listen. And Flavia, thank you so much for talking about what journalists can do. and the real important role of journalists, and also the important issue of what stories elsewhere in the West can affect issues in Africa. So for example, when these sort of stories come about and then the West immediately sort of bans people for coming, even people who are vaccinated, it doesn't help, with telling people to get vaccinated if they're told the very next minute, oh, your vaccines don't work or don't count, So I think the global community also has a responsibility on this issue. Well, thank you so much to everybody. We really are very grateful that you joined us. Well, thanks very much.
Fine.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Ego. That was wonderful. I know you went beyond the call of duty to join us by phone because internet didn't work. So we really, hopefully that you can engage your colleagues in Nollywood. We've had some experience and some difficulty in engaging Nollywood folks to talk about COVID publicly. But I think this is really important, not only for Nigeria, but also across the continent. Nollywood is one of the biggest film industries across the continent. So anything you can get your colleagues, DSTV, the soccer leagues, basketball leagues, I think is really key. Well, thank you so much to everybody. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all the questions.